So many of you have been asking me, April, what is the status of your narcissism series? I remember last year you said that you were going to do a series about it. We've not seen one video yet. Are you pulling our leg? No, I am not. I actually recorded a multi-part interview with an individual from my church who, by his own admission, was raised by a narcissist, was discipled by a narcissist, and by God's grace was leaning and heading in that area, and God has set him free from that bondage of the sin of narcissism. And so I did not feel confident in my video editing capabilities at the time that I recorded that to release that. And I was waiting for someone else to edit, and it did not happen. And so ultimately I have to end up editing that footage and that interview myself. But today I am going to talk about narcissism in general, not necessarily from a biblical perspective, but give you guys just an introductory teaser on narcissism in order to set you up for my Narcissism Biblically Examined series. So today I've got my trusty laptop with me, and Narcissism Biblically Examined, I am actually titling that entire series, The Silent Suffering of Spiritual Narcissistic Abuse. I do believe that because of the rise of social media, it's not that narcissism or narcissistic spiritual abuse is new. It's just that because of the rise of social media, it is more on the forefront of our minds, because we can actually see ministries, they're putting their content out, and we're connected to people in a more intimate way digitally than we've ever had in previous history. That's one reason why I would say you're hearing more about it. But not only that, the advent of social media, I believe, in my personal opinion, does give rise to people who have narcissistic tendencies. Social media just gives you the world stage. It's in your grasp for all of those sinful characteristics and behavioral traits to be made known. So first, what I want to do is I want to give a nice, good working definition of narcissism. So I have narcissism defined, or can be defined, as extremely self-centered, exaggerated sense of self-importance. Most people are guilty of mild or occasional narcissistic behaviors, some more than others, but this doesn't necessarily mean they have narcissistic personality disorder. So in that definition, I am affirming that you, me, grandmama, them, and your aunties, all of us to some degree or another can display narcissistic tendencies. Why? Because we are fallen sons and daughters of Adam, living in a sinful world with indwelling sin within us. So it is possible. But there's something very different about a person that, if they're displaying multiple personality characteristics or traits of people with narcissistic personality disorder, that's a whole separate animal. Now, I am not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not even a biblical counselor or therapist by a long shot. What I am is simply a daughter of the one true God who has been on the receiving end of narcissistic spiritual abuse. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk about is firsthand account, knowledge, and experience coupled with my own research. But this is not designed to make any sort of medical diagnosis. You need to consult the professionals for that. So there's my disclaimer for that. However, I believe that the Bible has everything that we need inside of that sacred text that we need for life and godliness. And it does give us insight into people who display these types of characteristic traits. And what I would say, I'm not one of those like, oh, it's a spirit, it's sin. A lot of people can be demonically influenced, and these influences can manifest in a number of ways. So you might have someone on the mild end and then someone all the way on the extreme end. But at the end of the day, they are without excuse. It is their indwelling sin within them that leads them to be this way. But I am not saying that a lot of this doesn't happen because a person has experienced some sort of trauma at one point in their life. So let me just make sure I got that out the way. There is an actual diagnostic criteria for narcissistic personality disorder. I am simply relaying this information, but as I go through this list, I want you to think back to a time in your life where you experienced a person and you're like, yep, they did that. That sounds like them. They did this, they did that. And you're like, okay, right. You don't need to be a professional to have observable reality right in front of you to say this person is definitely exhibiting signs of narcissistic tendencies. So for one, lacks empathy, unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others. When a person lacks empathy, they really do not care. They can verbally abuse you and say all manner of mean, inappropriate, and wicked things to you with zero regard to how it's going to make you feel, how their words are going to be perceived or received. Because they lack empathy, it's irrelevant to them. Right? So they'll just say mean and hurtful things. They will use bullying tactics and real demeaning and defaming words and language used to shame you and to hurt you. And then it's different when a person, just a regular normie person, says something mean and then immediately they're like, you know what? I shouldn't have said that. I can see how that hurts your feelings. I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry. The person that lacks empathy will say it. And then if you try to say, hey, that was a little harsh, they'll double down on it and say, no, it's not. It's just the truth. Or that's just how it is. They lack the empathy. They lack the emotional intelligence to be able to see that what they said was hurtful to someone else and that they probably shouldn't have said that because it was inappropriate. They just completely lack empathy. They also have a grandiose sense of self-importance, exaggerates achievements and talents, expects to be recognized as superior, but without commensurate achievement, right? So meaning, they love titles. They love to have this. They have this inflated sense of importance, right? So you might just be, I'm going to give you an example. A person, now, a lot of us, we like more inflated titles. A lot of us will start a business and they're regular just saying, I own a business. We're like, I'm the CEO or I'm the director of operations. It's different than that. They actually see themselves as way more important than they really are. And so they cling very tightly to titles, and they're not going to let you take that title from them, because when you take that title away, it's diminishing their level of self-importance. And so what they'll do is they'll brag about their achievements or their talents. And what makes it so weird, or what makes it narcissistic, is that the expectation, it's one thing for you to feel good about yourself. It's another thing when you actually have the expectation for everyone else to bow down and recognize you for the inflated sense of self that you've propped yourself up to be. And then if you don't, now you have to feel that person's wrath. That is a person that has a grandiose sense of self-importance. They have to be the loudest voice in the room. They have to be, they have the incessant need to be right. They are unable to let something go, because at the end of the day, you are the threat to them. They are not going to allow you to diminish their shine or to diminish how big and grand that they are presenting themselves out to be. Number 3, they are preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. A person that checks this box as it relates to narcissistic personality disorder or displays narcissistic tendencies, they are always constantly envisioning themselves being somebody great, being somebody important. They want to be on the world stage, whether that's like they can't sing, but they want to be a superstar. They can't act, but they just know they're going to be in a movie. They're always trying to get in front of people of prominence and importance so they can showcase, yes, see, I do have it. I do have the ability to be somebody important. They are just not happy or settled with the gifts and talents and abilities that they have, and they're just kind of going to do it as unto the Lord. No, they are preoccupied with it to where it's the only thing on their mind. They are constantly chasing these fantasies out there that they exceed their skill set, they exceed their ability, they exceed any training that this person or work or effort that this person has ever put into it. They just want it because they are preoccupied with how it's going to make them look. It's all about the optics. So it's unlimited success and power. They can't share the spotlight. If you're coming in and you're trying to take some of their shine, that's going to be a problem. Number 4, requires excessive admiration. Well, you have to understand about a person with narcissistic tendencies, the reason why they are elevating themselves to be so much more bigger than what they are is because they really feel really low about themselves. They have really low self-esteem. They don't have the proper view of themselves. They're so broken. They're so needy that they need excessive admiration. So you have to constantly celebrate them and praise them and tell them how wonderful they are, because if they don't get that, they're going to seek it from somewhere else. So this is why, particularly in a ministry capacity, you'll see a lot of pastors or preachers that love to hear pleasantries about themselves, and they lack humility. They don't let other people celebrate them or let other people tell them how great they are, right? They are constantly putting out on the forefront how great they are because they want you to affirm them in their greatness, right? Number 5. Believes that he or she is unique or special and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high status people or institutions. So they are always chasing the limelight. They're not happy just being the low man on the totem pole. They're not happy just being in their own little corner of the world and just minding their business. Nope, they can't do that because they believe they're so unique and so special. They believe that they deserve to be seen on the world stage. And so this is why everything they do, it has to be big and grand. It has to be a show. It has to be a spectacle because it has to be, look at me, all eyes on me. The attention is me. It's like this monster, this insatiable desire in them to be associated with other prominent people of importance. And so what they'll do is they'll go out of their way to diminish, like, oh, well, I'm up here and you're down here. My church is this and your little church over there is that. And you can't do it like we do because you're just inadequate and just, they're always, everything's a competition with them. Everything is a one up. So unless you're on their level, they're going to try to diminish you in any way that they can. And then finally, has a sense of entitlement, unreasonable expectations and favorable treatment or automatic compliance with his or her expectations. This is where you're not loyal. You were never there for me. You don't really support me. They literally internalize, hey, I'm disagreeing with you on this matter and I just don't see eye to eye on you here. To them, that is a narcissistic injury. That is a personal attack. You actually have to comply automatically without wavering in the least bit. And if you do, that is for them, you are just not loyal. You cannot be trusted. You're not, a part of their cool kids club because you just have a difference of opinion. There is no autonomy or individuality in the world of the narcissist. It is their way or the highway. They have an expectation that despite observable reality, you can see they're like banging their heads against the wall and they're bleeding, and you can tell them, hey, I think you're injured. I think you're bleeding. No, I'm not. I disagree. They are unable to deal with the reality of what is, and they demand you to constantly tell them good and pleasant tidings of great joy about them and to them for their benefit, because their egos cannot handle reality. They don't deal with what is, they deal with what they want reality to be. And now I really mean lastly, interpersonally exploitative. They will take advantage of others. So everything is transactional with the narcissist. They don't do things out of a genuine love, care, and concern for you. It's because there's some benefit at the end of it all for them. So basically, they will use you for their own prominence. They will use you for you to make them look good, but they're not celebrating you on the basis of your own merits. There is some sort of reward benefit for them that's tied to it as to why they will engage with you in any sort of interpersonal way. They don't have meaningful relationships or friendships with anyone. They don't. They're unable to build them. The other characteristic that they tend to display is they show arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitude. So because they have this inflated sense of self and they have this sense of entitlement, they're not humble. They are the opposite of humble. Even when they're trying to be fake humble, they are still very arrogant, haughty, and they boast. They will boast about things that they've accomplished, and they will boast about things that they've achieved. They'll be, and it's different than saying, well, on this test, I managed to score this, that, and the third. No, it is a very grandiose arrogance and boastfulness, boasting in the things they've either accomplished or boasting in just who they are in general. They'll tell you, because I'm not one to do this, that, and the third. I'm this, I'm that. They spend a lot of time focused and infatuated with themselves and with everyone else's view of themselves. They are unable to just let it go. They will spend the rest of their life focused in a very haughty, arrogant, and boastful way on how woe is me, how they were done wrong, because they are the eternal victim. But it's not the eternal victim in a I'm just so sad and look what happened to me. It's a how dare you think that you could do this, that, and the third to me. That's where the arrogance and the boastful behavior and the haughtiness comes from. The attitude is very self-serving, and it is very self-centered. They are fixated on themselves, so much so that it will consume all of their time and they can't focus on anything else. They will neglect home, work, school, other competing priorities for the simple fact of the ego and the arrogance and the boastfulness and just them being consumed with who they are. It will take up all of their time. Lastly, oftentimes they are envious of others, or they believe that others are envious of them. They have such an inflated sense of self that they believe that as much as they are preoccupied with others, in their mind, these other people are preoccupied and thinking about them. They believe that they are the top of mind to everyone else, or that they should be top of mind to everyone else. So if you don't answer their calls right away and you don't answer their messages right away, here comes the temper tantrum. Well, where were you? Well, why didn't you call me? When I call, you supposed to answer. I'm number one. I'm priority. You're supposed to drop everything for me, me, me. That preoccupation with themselves leads to insane jealousy and envy of others. They envy and covet what other people have. They envy and covet what other people are doing. And because they're inadequate and because they don't really have the ability to be the thing that the person or the persona that they envision themselves to be, because they don't have that within them to do that, they envy it when they see it in others. And their whole goal is, oh, that should be me. I'm supposed to be doing X, Y, Z, and the third. Why is it that that person over there gets to have this? And so the way that they portray themselves to the watching world, it's full of envy, jealousy. They're very spiteful and they're very vindictive. Now, keep in mind, my series is talking about narcissism biblically examined, where we're going to be discussing the silent suffering of spiritual narcissistic abuse. Before we can get there, I had to lay the groundwork for you to understand these are some of the characteristic traits of people who are guilty of impugning narcissistic spiritual abuse onto others. You need to be able to see some of the main telltale signs of people whose pattern of behavior fits this profile, for you to be able to understand and even heal spiritually when you have been the recipient of some of this abuse. It is a very ungodly, evil ordeal to experience and go through. However, like I said, the Bible gives us tools and resources and has not left us without a remedy or a way of escape or a plan to move forward in order for us to heal when we recognize and see these signs, whether it's in a ministry capacity or in a friendship or in a marriage or in other family type relationships. My sole goal is to edify the body of Christ, to educate the body of Christ, and to give us a way and a path forward as we deal with these spiritual strongholds and principalities. Because remember, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. There are spiritual dark forces at work when we have to deal with all types of people and all types of situations. Our goal at the end of the day should be for the salvation of those. But if we don't understand that salvation is of the Lord, and that at some point, once you give the person the gospel, or if they're professing to be a Christian, if you've called them to repentance and you've been lovingly forbearing with them over a season of time, and you're not making just a rash judgment off of one thing a person has done, but you've labored alongside them in brotherly and sisterly love, and you've been charitable, at some point, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to shake the dust off of your feet, and you are going to have to move forward with who God has called you to be, and disconnect yourself from this toxic pattern of spiritual abuse so that you can be whole and that you can serve God the way you were supposed to be without all of this toxic spiritual baggage. So we're going to continue and pick up on this series, and I'll be putting out the interviews, and I'll be putting out more specific videos that are going to drill down more specific topics. But if what I've done so far has been valuable to you, and if it has edified you and educated you in a way that you now know, oh, that's what that was when I experienced that, or that's what this person was displaying when I saw them do this, this, and this. Leave me a comment and let me know, what are your thoughts? What is it specifically that you'd like me to touch base on? If there's a topic in this wheelhouse that you specifically want me to deal with and answer, let me know in the comments. Feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe to this video. Grace and peace.